Alright, hello, and welcome to the FNaF trailer analysis video for the animatronics. I already recorded this video, but then my mic was cut out, so, yeah. But my thoughts are more collected this time, so we're gonna be talking about this trailer's animatronics, made by Jim Henson Creature Shop. Now, first thing is that these animatronics, we were not sure what exactly they were gonna be. And I'll be discussing a little further that it's a little unclear. But when some things were coming out with the development, when the first development picture came out, it was a picture of Freddy's bodysuit on a human kind of sculpt. So a lot of us going into this thought that these were going to be just suited characters, with like maybe animatronic heads, and even up to the posters coming out today, we also still thought it was going to be that. And then there was also the leaked trailer. The leaked trailer didn't help with how blurry it was. People were thinking, oh, these aren't animatronics, these are just characters in suits or whatever, or people in suits. And then some people thought, once the poster came out, which I thought this too for a bit, that maybe the animatronics were CGI because the posters looked really strange. Just something about them felt kind of CG, especially because of the color grading on them. The color grading was unnatural. A lot of colors that wouldn't normally happen in a photograph. So obviously these were just very heavily color corrected photos. Now that we know. But a Jim Henson Creature Shop employee actually came out and was like, hey, these aren't renders, these are the real things, and these are the real animatronics. So that confirmed that these were the real deal in full, not even just little heads. These are full animatronics. So it was a bit of a weirdness when these posters came out, and then the trailers come out, and yes, these are full robots, which is great. So we're going to talk about these because not a lot of people talk about animatronics and the good work that goes behind them, all the artisan and craft that has to go into making these, especially because of FNaF, making them into scary robots and all that. So let's talk about the suits of these first. These suits are very great. They mimic the games very well, and the materials that Scott was kind of going for in FNaF 1. Freddy's ear, if you look in the poster, has kind of a leathery look, which is similar to kind of the texture Scott used for that original it was like this weird dark thing with like some white, like lighter splotches in the middle. Very strange texture, but I can kind of see that as kind of translating to leather or a sort of leathery material. And then with the body, it kind of looks like fur. Some people say it looks like dirty plastic, which is odd. It looks like fur. So it's great to see them have felted suits. Even like because that was how animatronics were. I mean, some people were thinking more kind of fur. I'm glad they just stuck with felt because that kind of is what Cyberamics and other animatronics were made back then. So it fits the aesthetic. I am personally still a little. It's a little strange to see the characters segmented. In Fazanim, I made the characters have full sleeves. Their bodysuits are fully connected, seamed up costumes. Because that was kind of a limitation of Scott's game that didn't have anything to do with them being animatronics, besides, I guess the aesthetic of showing their interiors. Because, that doesn't, maybe you would have segmented shells for a character, because, you can't have the parts clacked together. But the felt itself can move loosely between joints, like, that's just fine. So, it's kind of an odd thing for this movie to have a cheap animatronics, quote unquote, have segments, because that's actually harder to do. You have to sit there and make patches for each, and you have to make shells for each segment. So a little weird, but that's fine. They're wanting to go for the aesthetic of the movie, or of the games, so it makes sense. They don't want to deviate too much, and people, when I made the Fazanim characters have fully costume bodies, people were like, oh, this is weird. So Obviously, it's probably best to go for this result, though I would have liked them to not be segmented, because I think it's more cool. So yeah, and then let's go into the character. We'll get to the mechanics real quick, and let me explain everything that we've seen with the mechanics. But the character designs are a little different. Bonnie now has a guitar strap. It kind of looks like Beach Bear's guitar strap a little bit, the way that it's kind of designed. And his lower, like, kind of white belly now extends up to his neck. There's still the seam there, but now the white felt continues up his neck, which is very strange. That's an odd detail I was not expecting. And then Freddy and Chica aren't changed much. I don't think Foxy's any different. So, but let's get on to the mechanics. So the first poster shows off the first bits of cylinders that we have here. These are pneumatic cylinders. It was unclear if these were going to be controlled by servos or by, especially because when we still were thinking they were just going to be heads, or like, oh, there's going to be a bunch of servos. But no, these are pneumatically controlled. If you look in the shoulder area, there is a classic pancake cylinder arm out kind of movement. So it's the same one that you would see on the Fats animatronic in Showbiz. It pushes the arms outwards. It's swapped on Fats. The bolt is on the top and the hinge is on the bottom. And on this one, it seems to be the bolt is on the bottom and the hinge is on the top. But it seems to be the same movement, so these will cause the character's shoulders to go from an inward position to moving outwards. Then later in the footage, if we go to the footage here, we can see Freddy's arm kind of tilt up just very slightly in this shot. So that could possibly be an arm up and down, so his forearm will bend upwards. We're not sure about Freddy's arm. Again, his arm probably moves outwards. The shoulders are probably the same. For the hand, I don't know if that hand... We do see in another shot that his hand isn't visible, but that might be because they just, for that shot, they just chopped off that section of the robot so it wasn't visible. But I'm not sure how complex they made these. They could easily make his hand bend outwards and then bend down. But it might just be for this an outwards movement. So the forearm tilts outwards to present the mic forward. The body in this shot, we can see it tilts left and right. So we know it tilts left and right. And then the other character, I'm trying to remember, one of these characters actually tilts their body forward. So there might be, I think, a body forward, or maybe not. I think they're just tilt. I think they just turn to the sides. So there's those. Chica, we don't get much on. She only gets 2 shots in this trailer. We know she can possibly tilt to the left and right. Maybe we know we can't really see that much. But the other confirmed movement that we do have is the head tilt, which is in the poster. You can see a very classic cylinder design. I'll show a picture here of what exact cylinder that is. Of a cylinder in the lower right neck area. And that implies that there is a head tilt, which we do see if we go to this later shot in the trailer right here, where Freddy is looking. Oh, it's a very tiny shot. Here we go. There is a head tilted. So this seems to be like the actual robot, just like they tilted the robot forward. And that is that cylinder pulling down on one side of the neck. And there's another cylinder on the other side of the neck that can pull up and down as well. So he can tilt his head side to side. I don't think we see a head turn. I think Chica has a head turn movement. Or maybe, let's see. Oh, and Bonnie right here has his head tilted to the side. So we know that is, and he has a full kind of body tilt here as well. So there is some debate that there still might be suited characters in this, like maybe half puppeteered, half animatronics or something, because there are some weird natural movements with Bonnie tilting his body like that, and then Chica, when she twists, because when Freddy twists, his upper body just moves, like the upper spine moves, the pelvis doesn't move at all. But then for Chica, when she tilts, her whole pelvis and foot move too. But there is a way to do that with animatronics. You either have to, those are smaller pelvises, so I maybe they could fit. You could either have a cylinder in the pelvis that tilts the legs, which can be seen with the Midgen robots, or you have a cylinder underneath them in the floorboard that moves things. And I guess we could keep talking about the legs here. There is a shot with Foxy here. Foxy's foot, his leg here bends downwards, which it's unclear. Obviously, this foot that crushes the ball is just like a prop foot that they just had an actor slam down onto this ball. It's a very janky movement. Does not look that looks very strange looking. But this might be the actual animatronic leg. This might be because these are kind of symmetrical legs. This might be the right leg, and then the left leg's off to the side, and this is just framed to look like the left leg, because it tilts downwards when he strikes his foot down, and this can't be an actor in a suit because Foxy's super thin. So I'm curious how Foxy's going to be, regardless of how they do that, how Foxy's going to be shot in this film, because they can't rely on suits, and he's too thin to like do really complex movement. I mean, because if they wanted him to move like that, that's the weird thing. So this leg moving kind of implies there might be a cylinder behind this. If this is the real animatronic leg and this isn't just another prop leg that they're tilting with this one, that means that there is a knee bend movement, which the Midgens do have. The Rock-afire / Creative Engineering generic Midgen line, those have a cylinder underneath the floor that makes their legs bend. And then they have a cylinder on their legs that is tilting their hips backwards so they still stay straight up. So there's a lot of weird implications here with the pelvises moving of like, did they really sit there and make leg movements for these guys? Or like, is Chica's pelvis moving because like the pelvis is stitched to the upper body and like it's just the fabric moving? There's still like a still frame under it. It's very unclear, like what parts of these are because like, yeah, did they go that complex with the detail, or is there something else going on here that's some movie magic to give them this, or are these people in suits and they're like just really good at acting? Because we do know there are robots, but like, yeah, is the show stage shot not the robots? I doubt it. Because if they're implying, the employees are implying these are the full animatronics, then that implies there's full characters here. So once more stuff comes out, we can analyze that and see, what if there's different prop versions and all that. But another interesting thing is these shots right here. These two close shots of Freddy and Bonnie are extremely strange because these might be the suited versions, because there's a lot of weird details in here. So if you look in the posters, Bonnie and Freddy's shoulders have a huge gap for the cylinder to be seen, but in these shots they're like their arms are fully tucked inwards, which looks very strange. This might be the suited character. If it's not, then maybe that cylinder is a arm tilt cylinder, but because there's no clearance on the bottom, I mean, I guess it could be because there's in the shot you can see a little bit on Freddy's for sure now, but on Bonnie's it looks like there might be a bar there, which implies maybe there is a shoulder. If you look at Rock-afire bots, there's a shoulder movement that begins in the center of the chest and moves outwards to the shoulder turn cylinder. So it could be that, and Bonnie's able to pull his arms inwards, which would kind of make sense for the guitar strum, to have his shoulder move inwards so he could strum the guitar, kind of. But I don't know, that could also just be the fact that they're suited in this shot, and because also Bonnie's neck is, I mean, it is kind of covered up on the robot, I guess. Freddy's neck, you could see his neck stuff, like his neck is pulled down a lot. You can see the mech, his suit's pulled down. You can see the mech on the inside. Bonnie's a little bit higher up, so you can't see his in that shot. But also in this shot, where his head is tilted upwards, there's still like you can barely see the inside of the suit. So I don't know. This looks kind of strange. I'm not sure if this is still the animatronic, and like I would be very impressed. I mean, because these are really low down shots. If these are the animatronics, then they have to they're like tilted all the way down. Like these are full metal like frames. They're having to tilt downwards, which I guess I just realized Freddy's on the right side of this shot as well. You actually can see Freddy's arm in that. So like that's the mech arm. You can tell that that's like got like some shininess in it. So unless for when they focus on Bonnie, they swapped the Freddy animatronic. This might be, yeah, these might still be the animatronics. That's strange. So maybe they aren't. Maybe they have. At least for Bonnie has a arm inwards movement. Curious what's going on there. And speaking of Bonnie, let's go back to the moving shot of the pizzeria here. There we go. I was curious what Bonnie was going to do with his ears in this. In FNaF, I have the characters, Bonnie's ears, because they are like metal bars sticking outside of the skull. They're not connected to the shell. For me, I did a cylinder that pushes the ear inwards and makes it kind of flop. And then the upper ear just kind of hanged there. Or I might have added a cylinder for that side too, but I think I just let them just kind of flop. For this one, it seems that Bonnie's ear is static, like both this hinge right here, and it moves like outwards and inwards, which is very strange. Because almost all of Bonnie's renders has his ears bent and not straight up. So it's very strange, unless they have two movements going on here, and they got a complex hinge that lets them bend it forward and turn it to the side. But with the amount of clearance you have in a head like that, I mean, I guess unless you have like really tiny cylinder, like I don't know, I'm not sure how much more powerful cylinders are nowadays. I don't know if there was ever any improvements in like the size of a cylinder compared to how much weight it can handle. I kind of doubt it, especially when you're dealing with pneumatics. I'm not sure about servos, but I'm sure with pneumatics, I think it's probably the same. So I'm assuming though it's just an outwards movement. So that's another confirmed movement on these characters. And then it's the same thing with Freddy. If you see it's a very tiny shot. It's this one. His ears are a little bit up higher and they move down. So he also has, that makes more sense for him. And both of them basically have the same animatronic mech. I guess for this movie specifically, they're going to have different arm positions. So the arms are going to be different. But most of their body is the exact same. I mean, they're the same shells up to the heads. So, so it makes sense that they would both have the kind of same ear movement of going outwards. But also, I forgot to mention another thing. there's a lot of things from the original cut of this video that I'm having to circle back on. The necks, actually, it's better if we go to the posters here. There's another interesting thing they did for the animatronics that are different from the in-game characters, and that's that Freddy and Bonnie's necks are way higher, or their heads are way higher than in-game. And that is because, and it's something that I experienced too in FNaF when I was working on making realistic animatronic characters for these and designing them, is that Freddy and Bonnie's jaw are too large and too close down to move them like a lot. And so you would just bump the bow tie in the chest constantly. For me, I just made it to where the movement isn't as extreme and you just can't open the mouth that high. But for them, they decided to completely raise the characters' necks up way higher so they can get a full, I assume for jump scares, or if they want to bite someone's head or whatever, they got to have the clearance for that. So they gave Freddy way more clearance in the neck. But they also, if you look back in this shot right here, in the trailer, they raised the back of his chest up higher. So from other angles, it still looks like his head's close down to his body. But they have, or maybe they've stripped the collar down more. I doubt it though. It looks like his both of their chests are kind of the same size. So I think they just raised the neck higher. So a lot of interesting details. Another thing is the jaw. So for the jaw in FNaF 1, it just straight up clips into the endo. It's just this big hunk of fur that just is stuck in the head somehow. For FNaF, I did a thing where the jaw had it was like a solid mass in the center, and then these weird little arches that go up to the ends here that go into the head became like kind of loose, and they would just kind of bend with the jaw, like they weren't stuffed with anything, or they didn't have any shell around them. So, but for these, they it seems like from the moving jaw shots in this trailer, that the entire jaw is completely solid, but then it does not move that high up into the upper area, and then it's split in the middle, which mine was also split in the middle, to make room for the endoskeleton. So, but that's a difference. That's intriguing that they kind of just let it stop right here. It didn't, because in the original game it goes way higher up into the head area like this. So they made them kind of shorter. The same thing with Bonnie. Bonnie's, like on the original Bonnie's, is there a better shot of Bonnie? I don't think so. Like, yeah, they're all front shots of Bonnie. His jaw goes all the way into the back of his head. And there's not really that clear of a shot in the posters. It still curves upwards like it did in the posters. I assume it goes all the way to the back of the head still. But I bet when he opens his mouth, there's now a massive cavity in the center to make room for the endo head, especially if there's still the endo jaws. If we go to the saw scene in the trailer, there is a hint at a jaw. Now these are completely different. These are props. These aren't the actual animatronics at all. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Jim Henson Creature Shop's insane, and they allow detachable eyelids that can still, like, maybe I doubt it though. This is probably its own separate prop. But there is a hint at a metal jaw here. I don't think there's an upper jaw, I guess, just a lower jaw. So they have to make room for these, for sure. And also, interestingly, this saw scene does show that there is like a full kind of like plasticky shell, because you have to have shells for these characters. But I was curious, like, because there's different materials you can use, and more techniques nowadays for having a felted character or a furred character, like, have a support system underneath. So it seems like they went with the more classic shells, but it seems, which is also weird that the shells kind of go all the way back here, because Freddy's head doesn't go that low down. So maybe that's the jaw shell? No, because there's the neck here. I'm not sure what this back shell is. That is a very strange back shell, because if we go back to the other shot, I mean, Freddy's head, like, it, I guess it does kind of dip down more. Maybe it does dip down that much. No, probably not that much. That is a very strange, weird little thing. Might just be for this little prop. But it's interesting that there is a seam here, because most Cyberamics characters from Pizza Time Theater also had a seam on the side of their head, so you could remove the front of their head, so you could remove the back of their head. The front was always on. And get access to all the cylinders. So it's interesting that they kind of, assuming this isn't like just ripped off, and this is just like you could just take off the front head in the movie. That's kind of a callback to that, which is very neat, though it's for this insane shot to happen. I guess this is the implication of their eyes glowing. Oh yeah, let's talk about that. That's another point I wanted to mention, is the glowing eyes. So, very weird that they have red glowing eyes in terms of the movie continuity. Like, why does Fazbear Entertainment have red glowing eyes for their characters? Because there's no LEDs in the 80s or 90s, at least for this use. They would just use little mini bulbs. So they would have like individual bulbs for each light. So it's very strange that they would include a red one. I would assume they would just include a white one to make the characters' eyes glow white and cartoony. But it's interesting that the characters' full eyes are red, because they couldn't necessarily do like the little white dots from the original games, because I mean, why would a character have that for an animatronic? But also for the fact that they couldn't just have like really bright LEDs that shine in the middle of the darkness. They'd be very dim lights. So the reason the character's eyes fully glow kind of mimics how old characters back then would have completely hollowed out, very, very thin eyes, to have very low weight in their head, because when you're building the animatronic, you want to worry about, unless depending on how strong your frame is or how bulky your frame is, you want to keep as little weight as possible on a character. So you would make a lot of things in the head very light and very thin. So the eyes would be thin, which means you could use thinner cylinders to move them because the size of a cylinder is for how much weight it needs to pull. So having thin eyes means you can just have one itty bitty little tiny cylinder that moves, which, especially for these characters with their massive jaws, where they're not just moving a little foam thing, having to move these huge jaws. I bet that's where all the weight's going to, is the jaw cylinder. There's probably a huge jaw cylinder in these robots. So it makes sense. So when you have thin plastic eyes, if you were to shine a light in them, it's just going to light up the entire eye. It's not going to light up just the pupils or anything. It's going to turn the whole entire eye that color, and it completely washes out the pupils too. So, though, if you look in the character posters, which is interesting, if you look at the full character poster, Foxy's eye is not like lit. It looks like what this trailer shows, where it's completely washing out the eyes. But then all the other characters have these darker eyes. But then in Foxy's individual poster, he also has a darker eye. So I think they manually edited the eyes in, which is funny. Because yeah, they're completely washed out in these shots. Because yeah, it's a thin little eyeball. So the light would just go straight through. So I don't know. And another thing about the eyes is the eyelids. If we knew this way back. There was another development photo that had came out that showed a very hinted glimpse at Foxy's eyelid, or I guess the cupcakes. I think they both have yellow eyes. And it has the FNaF 1 glossy sparkle in it, which is a really cool attention to detail. The fact that they were able to mimic the FNaF 1 sparkle, which the FNaF 1 sparkle's got like bigger kind of, it's a lot like a bigger texture. This one's a very thin, fine grain, but it's still really well mimicking that, and I love that. There's a lot of details in these characters that try to stay close to the original animatronics, which I love. I mean, I've been waiting on this movie for 8 years. I've been here since FNaF 1, so it's so great to see. Like, I have no complaints with these. I mean, again, assuming, I know they will probably have to do suits for some shots, maybe. I mean, if they really say like every shot was an animatronic, I'll be wowed. But like, yeah, assuming most of these shots are really the animatronics, I am completely impressed. I'm in love with these, and I hope that these are shown off more. So that's another thing I want to talk about here. Is that right now this movie I think has finished filming like 2 months ago, maybe 1 or 2 months ago. And these animatronics are sitting somewhere rotting, probably not rotting, but they're sitting somewhere. They're either in Jim Henson Creature Shop's shop, or they're with Scott, or probably just those. Maybe Jason Blum has them. I don't know. But I hope that if they did make full classic animatronics, I hope that these are actually used outside of the movie. Besides just showing off how cool these were and behind the scenes stuff. I hope these characters are like shown off at an event, or maybe when people tour Jim Henson's Creature Shop, they are propped up and animated, because there is a Showtime button in this. Oh, and I will talk about that too. I have not talked about the restaurant yet. There's a lot of things in the original cut of this I got to remember to redo. There is an implication of Showtime in this, and that we're going to be seeing the characters performing maybe for a few seconds in the movie. But it would be great to like show off the entire Showtime performance, like just have them sit in a room and just let the entire full-length thing play. Maybe, I guess, for production purposes, they'd like have a camera moving around and having effects and all that. But like, it would be great to finally just sit there and watch the animatronics move into a full performance. Because if they really just made full animatronics, let's use them and show it off. And I hope that they're constantly used after the movie, and in some way, like, not rotted or used for parts or anything. I hope that these stick around, because these are one of a kinds. And they're very cool to finally see the FNaF robots. Like, I mean, if they have the budget for it, it'd be neat to see, like, for a premiere, of one of the movies, they bring the animatronics out and have them perform the Showtime song, like in front of the theater or whatever, in front of people. Like, have that classic Chuck E. Cheese experience of being able to see the robots perform. Because even though for this, it's a horror movie, they don't want to show off the robots, make them not look scary. they're still animatronics. They're still cool, and I think robots or animatronics should be discussed in a cool way because of how much work it goes into making these guys, instead of just being scary robot. I mean, especially for the animation, when they do have them do the Showtime thing. So like programming is very complicated. It's very tedious. For programming a character, or for animating, we call it programming. You have to sit there and animate a single movement through the entirety of whatever shot you're needing to do, and then go backwards and redo it for the next one. You don't do things like in 3D animation where you're doing it on the timeline. You have to go forward and back for just each movement individually over and over again. So, it would be cool to see a credits list from Jim Henson Creature Shop, like who worked on these, who animated the characters, who did all the, because we've been seeing the actors come out. But it'd be cool to see who there made all this. It'd be very nice to see some credits here. All right, so let's discuss the showroom itself, the whole Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. So the first thing that's really cool about this trailer and the movie is that the training tapes, the employee is straight up just wearing a Showbiz Pizza employee uniform, minus the bow tie and the hat. Even though Chucky was the one that had the vest, Pizza Time Theater employees actually just wear like a random shirt. Showbiz Pizza employees were the ones that had the red vests. So this is just straight up that design. The person even looks like the actual person in the Showbiz training tapes themselves. So it's kind of like almost that. And also the name tag is interesting. It has the sign logo on it, which is also visible in the shot. I know there's a version of it with the full thing. But this sign is really cool. It is a mix of the 80s and 90s Showbiz Pizza logo. So it has the 80s one because it has the little white dots or lights for the sign around the edges of it in a little border. And then it has the mix of the 90s logo because it has the green and red in it. And then the little bump with the pizza is on the bottom instead of like a little bump at the top, like the original. So, and most people don't know about the 90s logo because that logo was only there for like, I think 2 or 3 years. And then they just moved on to the Chuck E. Cheese's logo because that was when they were transitioning from Showbiz Pizza to just Chuck E. Cheese's. So it's really cool that they mixed both of those. I don't like the animatronic being represented. It would have been cool to see like a character on this, but whatever. So I still think the design's cool, the logo's cool and all that. So yeah, it's neat that there's a lot of Showbiz stuff in here, but the actual restaurant doesn't have much in it. Maybe a little more Showbiz inspired than Chuck E. Cheese's, but like it really just kind of does its own thing. It looks just more like the FNaF games. It's got weird multicolored walls with tiles. The showroom shot, or is another shot in here? There's another shot that shows, yeah, they got red tiles on the floor. Pizza Time Theater and Showbiz were all just completely carpeted. Though this first section right here has like a black arcade carpet. Both Showbiz and Pizza Time Theater also didn't have arcade carpets. They had Showbiz had like this weird brown, looks like potato chip pattern carpet, and then Pizza Time Theater had Chucky head carpet that was like red or green depending on the location. So there's a lot of things just kind of, it's doing its own thing. Also, it's the original FNaF 1 location layout. So the showroom, arcade, and the dining area is all one huge section, which is very strange, but they wanted to recreate the original FNaF location. That's completely fine. It's cool to see them doing their own thing, but and all the pins too. There's a ton of Chuck E. Cheese and Showbiz pins, a bajillion of them. I'm very curious what these actually say on them, if they're like references. I mean, you see Freddy and Bonnie in one of them, but I'm curious and there's the Let's Eat sticker or pin, but I'm curious like if there's any references to the actual original restaurant pins. I'm curious when this movie releases, like how many references to Chuck E. Cheese, Pizza Time Theater, and Showbiz Pizza Place they're going to be. Oh, and they got a cool Foxy, the Funko plush in there. That's neat. So the next, and then also one thing, these weird lights on the ball pit kind of remind me of Circles of Lights, the Circle of Light stage in the newer Chuck E. Cheese's, which has that, but it's for the showroom and the main stage. But yeah, these weird little light things. And this is something I want to talk about, the Showtime button. So this is obviously from the original games. It was in Help Wanted as just like a button on the little VR desk, and it's also in Security Breach, but it doesn't work. So it's weird in this movie. It's on the wall on the inner showroom. So this is a weird mix of what Showbiz Pizza and Pizza Time Theater did, but it's kind of like a simplified version of it. So Showbiz Pizza had, in certain locations at certain times, a show selector, which when the characters weren't playing the usual, it was only one show tape, so they would just play through all the show selector songs. But when they were inactive, you could manually select a specific song from the reel, and they would play that song next once it rewound the tape back to the beginning of it. And then Pizza Time Theater, on the inside for employees, the employee only area, they would have this control panel, and it let you select the birthday show, the cheer show, the special shows, and it let you skip forward or backward in the program. And I guess also Showbiz also had a button for birthday shows specifically, but Chuck E. Cheese had way more options for what show you wanted to play. So this is kind of like a strange mix of that, where it's like it's just a button that plays a show, kind of like the next button, but it just plays a show. I don't know what it's implying that it'll get the character started, because in Chuck E. Cheese's they would just play constantly. They just played nonstop. And then in Rock-afire they had a little bit more of a downtime, for you to do this kind of show selector option. So it's kind of weird that there's like an implication that it's just like one song they play, I guess, or just play a random song, and they're usually just behind the curtains. So and also, like, is this only for employees, or can parents do this? Because it's not low down enough for a child to reach it. So yeah, I'm curious about this Showtime button. And then they play, in the trailer at least, during this section, they're playing Secrets That You Keep. It's just like the straight up your actual song, which sucks. I hope that they actually get the characters to sing. Please don't have them play just random licensed music. Like, I mean, kind of Rock-afire did that in the 90s, and I guess this is 93, so that does kind of match up when Rock-afire was lip syncing some songs to just straight up music videos. But 99% of everything, they have actual voice actors that do these things. But it's cool. It's Secrets That You Keep. That's actually a song played in a real animatronic band. It was performed by the Rock-afire in, I think, the Magic Show tape, or maybe it was Trivia Night. One of those two. Mitzi sings it. It's a really good cover.
And I know that I'm right, 'cause I hear it in the night. I hear the secrets that you keep when you're talking in your sleep.
I sometimes, for a lot of the older songs, I like the Rock-afire covers more than the actual songs, especially their Beatles covers, which is surprising. I like an animatronic band's covers more than the original Beatles songs. So, but yeah, I hope they actually perform some songs in this. Wouldn't that be cool if they had an album? Like, they got the characters to like sing some songs and they released an album of the show tape? I don't know. I mean, we got the animatronics finally. I wish they would kind of lean into the animatronicness more, because it's like our one chance to get some of this stuff in the physical world. So unless, I don't know, the next FNaF game, like even Security Breach didn't really do much with it. I wish they would move to the more, because maybe that's just because the community isn't interested. I think if the community became more interested in these animatronics that have all this work put into them, and cared about just, them being like real animatronics, then maybe we could see an actual show tape one day. Because right now it's just we got the Security Breach little trailer song that's kind of annoying, because it has Chica just screaming over the entire tape. And then we got the Together Forever song. That one's really good, though it's also a little cheesy. But it'd be cool to see the characters perform. But anyways, tangent. That's my thoughts on the trailer, the animatronics. I hope Jim Henson's Creature Shop posts some behind the scenes photos and videos and all that. Talk about get interviews with the artists who made these. Please. I would love to see the craft work behind these animatronics. They're very important. It's really crazy that Chuck E. Cheese's and Pizza Time Theater led to this horror game franchise, and then that led to actual animatronics being made of these characters. I think that should be celebrated and looked more in depth instead of just being movie props. I want to see some more behind the scenes stuff, please. Blumhouse and Jim Henson's Creature Shop, that would be nice. And also my own personal thing. Since I made Fazanum, which if some of you don't know, I have a animatronic simulator software that mimics a lot of old characters just from, and it's a generic software called the RR engine. And one version I made out of it was for Fazanum, a FNaF fan game that has the characters moving around and everything and all that, like actual animatronics. I built them to spec. So it would be cool if there's enough behind the scenes footage of these guys to like put them in Fazanum, get the original movie location, kind of, make a mimic of that, and let people in the community like actually make show tapes with these guys, because they can make it with my versions, but it'd be really cool to, especially with whatever software Jim Henson's Creature Shop used for this. They might have used Weagle or trying to like Showforge maybe, or maybe their own custom software. If I figure out what that was, it'd be cool to like let you be able to save in those file formats just to get the experience. Or maybe they if they made anything with these guys, release whatever they made and I can import it, let people play it on their computers. That'd be cool. I don't know. I love animatronics. I love FNaF. So I hope there's enough to work with here that I could do an update to Fazanum that introduces the movie animatronics. But that completely depends on how much can be or will be shown of these guys. So I guess we'll see. But let me know what you think about the animatronics in this movie, or just the trailer itself and the movie. Are you hyped for it? I'm hyped for it. I think it's gonna be really cool. I've been waiting for this movie for 8 years, since FNaF 1, since Markiplier uploaded his first FNaF video. That was when I got exposed to it. So like a few days after the game came out. So I've been waiting and I'm excited for this movie. I'm probably gonna see it in theaters. Apparently it's releasing same day on like a streaming service. So that kind of sucks. I wish they would have like delayed that a bit. But I'm gonna watch it in the movie theater. That'll be fun. So yeah, that was my thoughts on if we get more stuff, if they do interviews or whatever early, or if they drop a bigger teaser and it shows more that we can actually like gather, then I'll do a part 2 to this. But I'll see you later.